Maryland basketball has a huge opportunity tonight against Villanova.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, video content creator for 247 Sports and InsideMarylandSports.com, and host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code Locked On College for a first-time deposit and match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Maryland has a huge opportunity tonight to fix their season so far. It's no secret so far this season the Maryland Terrapins are off to a terrible start in basketball season. Basketball is the sport we kind of look forward to as a Maryland Terrapin fan. We haven't had the tradition of having the best Maryland football team for the last couple of years, and we've been a basketball school, and that's okay. But this year has not started the way that we have wanted it to start, the way that we thought it would start, our expectations coming into the season. It has really been below that. It's kind of the opposite of how we started football season, which is kind of ironic. Football started to come down to earth, started off 5-0, but came down to earth. Maryland basketball, we started off tough, and hopefully we are going to be able to fix this season. But there is a huge opportunity tonight to fix this season after starting terrible, after losing to UAB and Davidson, two teams we were favored against by multiple points. They were less talented. They were less talented than us. We were better on paper, but of course the game is not played on paper. We got outplayed in basically every category. They had a better game plan. They were better coached. They came out with a better thought process going into the game. UAB and Davidson completely overdid the Maryland program. And this game against Villanova is a chance to fix the season. Terp fans are concerned. I'm concerned so far how the season has gone. Not just how it's gone, but how it looks to my eye test. How we're not able to score the ball a lot of times. How poor our three-point shooting has been this year. I don't like the look of the way Maryland basketball looks so far. I think there's some talented players on the court, but right now, I'm not convinced. But they have the chance tonight to convince everybody and fix the season after going 0-2 in the Asheville Championship. Like I said, losing to two non-Power 5 teams that we honestly had no business losing to. Losing to one is one thing, but losing to two back-to-back, getting upset in back-to-back games against non-Power 5 schools, against teams that you're better than, more talented, like I said. You have to find a way to fix the season tonight against Villanova. But our head coach, Kevin Willard, isn't worried. I said I'm concerned. Maryland fans are concerned. The Maryland community is concerned about how we played so far in basketball season. There's been a lot of overreactions. But Kevin Willard, our coach, isn't worried at all. This is what Kevin Willard had to say during the press conference. Yeah, I'm not worried about this team. I know everybody else is. I knew we wouldn't be playing well at the games at the beginning of the season. I just, from a standpoint of watching practice, the inability to practice at some points in October, and just freshmen getting their game legs. Like I said, a lot of guys, Noah Batchelor, didn't play much last year. Jahmir Young didn't play last year a lot. And we have some freshmen, of course. And Jordan had a totally different role here than we have at Indiana. So basically what Kevin Willard is saying is that he's not worried because he knew that we weren't going to have the chemistry right away, and that the pieces weren't going to fit, and that the puzzle was still being kind of sorted out. You know, when you make a puzzle and you're going through it and you have to find the way the pieces fit, and it takes a second. Just like the Maryland Terrapins, it takes a second. If you've ever done a hard puzzle, then you know that it can take days, it can take weeks, it can take months to solve some of the harder puzzles, and that's exactly what college basketball is. It's a hard puzzle to solve in terms of rotations, in terms of shooting, in terms of who meshes right, in terms of plays, in terms of defensive schemes. There's so many things in the puzzles and the pieces that you have to put together, and that's what Kevin Willard is saying, that there is still there's a big puzzle, and it's not solved yet. Maybe we figured out a thing here or there, but there's still a lot to be determined. There's still a lot to be fixed. There's still a lot of things that need to put together to begin to make the full entire puzzle into one piece. And in a lot of ways, I agree with Kevin Willard about that. I mean, he's going to say that. He has to say that as a coach. That's what he's going to say during the press conference, and he's going to instill confidence in the guys. But still, there's still things that sometimes, I don't know if we have the puzzle pieces that can fix this season so far, like shooting and scoring ability. And there are, of course, things that I do think we can fix, like some of the defensive lapses that we had and figuring out the starting lineup. I do think that can fix, but my biggest concern is shooting the ball. But like I said, the Terps have a huge opportunity to fix it tonight against Villanova, to fix the way this year has been perceived, to fix the notion on Maryland basketball so far, to get a huge win that is absolutely needed. Because right now we're looking at this season as a complete disappointment. We thought we were bringing in a top 20 freshman class. Well, we did bring in a top 20 freshman class, but we thought that the freshmen were going to come in and make huge impacts. We thought Jordan Geronimo, the transfer from Indiana, was going to be able to take on a bigger role as a Terp. And then we thought that Jahmir Young and Julian Reese would be all Big Ten players. And this goes back to what we said about the puzzle pieces. But this game against Villanova really has the chance to completely change the look of the season. When you lose 2 straight games against 2 teams that you should beat, you have to rebound if you want to find a way to play later on in March and to play in March Madness and have an opportunity to be in the tournament. If you take a loss here to a team that you shouldn't, everybody knows that you have to make it up with the bigger win. And that's why this Villanova game is a huge opportunity to make it up, because Villanova is a very good team. They're the best team we have played yet. It's not UAB, it's not Davidson, it's Villanova. And most of you guys know that, the tradition that comes with Villanova basketball and them winning national championships, them having a very good program year in and year out. Some of the most iconic moments, I think about the buzzer beater in the national championship that Chris Jenkins hit, comes from Villanova basketball. We know that year after year they have a really good team, and they have a really good team again this year. They're ranked 22nd in the country, so they're a top 25 team. So that would be adding a top 25 win into our resume. And they're a really talented team. They have some really good players that we'll talk about a little bit more later in the next segment, but they have some really talented players, including Justin Moore, who's going to be an NBA player, Eric Dixon. They're a preseason top 4 team in the Big East, and the Big East has some really good teams in the conference this year. You can't forget that it's not just the Power 5 in basketball. There's also like the Big East, which is a really good conference. There's other really good conferences that have really good teams. Specifically, the Big East would be the number one. They're considered one of the better conferences in college basketball. They have some really good teams this year. UConn, Creighton, Marquette, all top 25 teams, and Villanova is right up there with them, finished preseason or picked to be a preseason top 4 team in the Big East. They did have a similar bad loss that we had. They do have 1 loss on the season to Penn, to our 2 bad losses on the season. So you know this Villanova team's going to be fire, and both teams are really trying to search for that signature win so far in the season. This is the biggest chance for both teams. This is the biggest opportunity, the best team each team has played. And Villanova has a really experienced team. 4 of their starters are upperclassmen. And so if you put all this together and you talk about the experience of Villanova and the talent that they have being a top 25 team, if Maryland can find a way to be able to win this game, then the season is looked at entirely different, being 2-2 instead of being 1-3. It's a completely different season, You feel like you can start over. You feel like you have confidence again. You feel like you can really do this thing and that it's not going to be a bad season. You completely turn it around. You're going to have momentum. Fans are going to be hyped about it. But when you're trying to crawl back from 1-3 and you know you're going to have to win some big Big Ten games at home and away on the road, you probably would have to beat a team like Purdue. You would have to probably beat a team like Michigan State. You probably would have to go on a run in the Big Ten tournament. And there's a lot of season to be played. So I'm not saying the season ends tonight, but this game can fix our season so far, and it can allow Maryland and outside people and people inside the building, whoever it may be that is involved in the Maryland program, to perceive our program and perceive our resume in a completely different way so far this season. Instead of looking at it as a disappointment, it'll start to look at it as, okay, we started bad, but we're on the right track. So this Villanova game can absolutely fix our season so far. How can the Terps win this game, and what are some of the key matchups against Villanova? We'll talk about that after this ad from PrizePicks. Testing my skills on PrizePicks this football season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. We're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and charts, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first-time deposit. Maryland can win the game if they do these things and if they win these matchups. Let's get into it against this really talented, really deep Villanova team. Let's get into some of the key matchups of the game. And again, thank you for making us part of your day and all the everydayers that make Locked on Terps part of the day. But let's get into some of the key matchups of the game. Let's start with the guard positions. Two of the best players from each team. A guy that I touched on a little bit for Villanova that I talked about earlier that said he's a really good player and that he can completely change the game. And Justin Moore versus Jahmir Young. I don't think Jahmir Young will be guarding Justin Moore, but the reason I put this as a key matchup is because these are the two best players on the floor. Jahmir Young is more the point guard for the Terps, and Justin Moore is more of an off-ball guard, but they're both guards and the two best players on the court and the two best players for their respective teams. And so far, Justin Moore has had a very good season so far. He's a top player in the country. Like I said, he's more of an off-ball guard, more of a shooting guard, if you will, and he can fill it up. Villanova's leading scorers so far this season, 18.7 points per game, so basically 19 if we round that number up. And the scary thing about it is he's averaging 19 points right now while only shooting 28% from the three-point line, which is not a crazy number to shoot. He probably wants to get that number up to about 31, 32, 33% about, but the fact that he's shooting around 28% from three right now, and he's still averaging 18.7, or if you want to round that up to 19, that's a pretty dang good thing to do. And he also got named to the Wooden Award watch list, which is a huge award to get recognized for in college basketball. And actually a little point about Justin Moore that I did know is that he is from the DMV area. He did go to DeMatha. So you kind of hope the Terps kind of start holding on to these type of guys. Last recruiting class, or this year's recruiting class coming in the 2023 class, all 3 are DMV guys. So you hope that next time we can hold on to the next guy that's going to be similar to Justin Moore, because he was a really good player coming out of high school. But he is key number one player for the Terps to slow down. And he, of course, like I said, that's going to be the matchup, Justin Moore and Jahmir Young. Jahmir Young really needs to outplay Justin Moore. And if the Terps want to win, I think we need to find a way to slow Justin Moore down. I don't know who's going to be guarding Justin Moore, to be honest, because some of it's going to depend on the Maryland basketball lineup, because we don't know who the thirds or not the third starter is going to be, but the fifth starter is going to be at the 3 spot, at the small forward spot. So we look at it right now as Jahmir Young, Deshaun Harris-Smith, and then we don't know at the 3, and then Dante Scott and Julian Reese at the 4 and the 5. Could be Noah Bachelor again. Maybe they give him another opportunity even after the bad game against UAB, or maybe they go back to Jordan Geronimo, or maybe they go the freshman Jamie Kaiser, or maybe they go to Jahari Long. I don't know who's going to be guarding him. My best guess right now for who's going to be guarding him is Deshaun Harris-Smith, and that's going to be a huge matchup for Deshaun Harris-Smith. Deshaun Harris-Smith versus Justin Moore, 2 DMV guys, 2 WCAC Basketball League guys, DeMatha and a PVI guy. If you guys don't know, those are 2 of the best basketball programs in the DMV area. 2 basketball programs with so much tradition, so many good players to come out of both programs. And so that could very well be the matchup. Deshaun Harris-Smith could be one of our better defenders. We'll see if he guards Justin Moore. I wouldn't be surprised if he is on him and he gets that matchup. But my key number 1 is slowing down Justin Moore. Try to keep him below his average of 19 points. Maybe try and keep him below 16 points and try and keep him with 15, 14 points, which is still a solid day. But those guys are going to get their buckets. You want to just try to make shots difficult, try to slow them down a little bit. But at the end of the day, those guys are going to get theirs, but try and slow them down. That's the number 1 matchup and number 1 key I'm looking for. Slow down Justin Moore. And then they have a really good player in TJ Bamba versus Deshaun Harris-Smith. I don't know, honestly, who's going to guard Justin Moore. I don't know exactly how the matchups are going to roll out. I did say Deshaun Harris-Smith is probably going to guard Justin Moore, but I don't know. It depends on who's starting. But TJ Bamba is also kind of the 2 guard, another guard for them. Big-time transfer from Washington State. Really solid player, very solid guard, can shoot the ball, and is shooting 46% from 3. So we got to get out on this kid. I don't know. Our third starter, maybe Jordan Geronimo, might be guarding him, or Jamie Kaiser. If Jamie Kaiser's in the game, he's going to have to step up on defense. Whoever may be, Noah Bachelor, you're going to have to get out this guy. Don't allow this guy to shoot the 3. He can do other things. He can drive the ball, but he was a really big transfer, like I said, from Washington State. So a key matchup is don't allow him to get the 3 ball going. He is shooting 46%, like I said. So don't limit his 3 or do limit his 3-point shot because he can really kind of take over a game with that shot while he's shooting 46% out on the 3-point line. So those are 2 key matchups that I look at. Slowing down Justin Moore, Jahmir Young versus Justin Moore, and then Deshaun Harris-Smith versus TJ Bamba. Let's see what Deshaun Harris-Smith can do against Bamba. I don't know exactly, like I said, who guards who, whatever. I'm more looking at it as going kind of by position groups. But Deshaun Harris-Smith, we're going to need a huge game from him if we want to beat this Villanova team. I don't even mean just scoring the ball. I mean, if he's on Justin Moore, he's going to have a big game defensively. We need him to rebound the ball. We need him to turn over the ball less. We need him to probably shoot the ball better from the 3-point line if we're going to beat this Villanova team. We're going to need Deshaun Harris-Smith to definitely step up. And my next key for the Maryland Terrapin is to stay out of foul trouble. This is why. This Villanova team is deep. They got 6 guys averaging over 9 points. Averaging over 9 points. That's a lot of guys to average over 9 points. They almost have 6 guys in double figures. They're deeper than us. And this doesn't even include those 6 guys that are averaging over 9 points. Don't even include Hakeem Hart and Brendan Hausen, 2 other really good players. Of course, we all know Hakeem Hart really well. He would be starting for us right now, and right now he can't find that many minutes for Villanova. So that tells you all you need to know. Hakeem Hart would be starting right now for us, and he's having trouble finding minutes for Villanova. This Villanova team is deep. They got a lot of really good players. I don't know if they have a bunch of star players. I look at Justin Moore as a star. I don't know if they have like 2 or 3 stars, but they have 5 guys that can drop like 18 points any game. So you look at this and you say Maryland, even though a lot of people say we're more deep this year, I don't even know if I'm convinced of that yet. I need to see more production out of bench players and even out of the starters to say that we're a deeper team this year. But Maryland needs to stay out of foul trouble, especially Julian Reese. I look at any starter, any player, though, but specifically Julian Reese, because we know he's had trouble with foul trouble. But staying out of foul trouble is going to be big because Villanova's deep. They're deep. So if we're in foul trouble and we're going down our bench, Villanova could potentially take advantage of it because even if they're committing fouls and the game's pretty physical, they have a bunch of guys that can play and that can step up. And I'm not convinced the Maryland Terrapins have that yet. And then our last key matchup is Julian Reese versus the Villanova bigs, Eric Dixon and Tyler Burton. Side note, these guys aren't really bigs. They're more of forwards. Villanova kind of has an interesting lineup. It's more of a 3-guard lineup and 2 forwards. It's not like they don't have like a traditional like 6'11" center in there. They have 2 guys in Tyler Burton and Eric Dixon that are about the same height at about 6'8". So basically what I'm thinking is that means is Julian Reese should have a big day. Run the offense through Julian Reese because these guys are a little bit smaller. I would guess that they're going to double Julian Reese down low, or else it's going to be hard for the smaller defender to guard him. So if they're doubling Julian Reese, what does that mean to me? That means that we're going to need to kick the ball out. Julian Reese is going to need to kick the ball out, but you can still run the ball through him. Getting a double team is not a bad thing at all. It's going to be hard for us. I don't know if it's a great thing for us because of our shooting ability. They're going to give us threes. We're going to have to find a way to knock them down. And my last key of the game is turnovers. And this kind of goes off of what I was saying. Maryland is going to have to limit their turnovers. Right now, we're averaging about 10 turnovers per game, and we definitely want to get that down. We shoot 22% from the three-point line so far this year, which is pretty terrible. So what does that tell me about turnovers this season and what we're going to have to do with them? We're not going to be able to turn over the ball much if we want to win games, because if we're not going to be hitting three-point shots at a high percentage, and I can't see it climbing it that much more. I hope it will climb some, but I hope they prove me wrong. But if the three-point percentage doesn't climb more, we're going to have to make up for that in another category, and I say turnovers make that up. So we're going to have to turn over the ball less. Julian Reese, we're going to need him against the smaller Villanova front line. Stay out of foul trouble, and Jahmir Young probably has to outplay Justin Moore for the Terps to win this game. Let's get into a prediction. Who do I think wins the game? I'll tell you after this ad from the Athletic Brewery. Now time for your Game Changer of the Week, brought to you by the Athletic Brewing Company. Much like Toledo Tongue and Viola, Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. You don't have to worry about hangovers. I've talked to many people in the Locked On community, and they say they taste great. They're the fastest growing non-alcoholic brewery in the U.S., so get on board. You can find Athletic Brewing Co.'s non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use Locked On to get 15% off your first online order. That's Locked On at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusion and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. What are my predictions for Maryland versus Villanova tonight on FS1 at 8:30? It's a big week for Maryland sports. Of course, Maryland football has a game against Michigan tomorrow, and I will be in attendance. But of course, first we have a huge basketball game against Villanova. So two of the biggest games of the season for both teams. So let's get into some predictions for this game. And I'm sorry, Maryland fans, I have to pick Villanova to win. I haven't seen enough this season to be like, I think Maryland wins this game. I haven't seen enough. I hope we win. I hope I'm super wrong and I can come back on here the next couple of days and say I was wrong and someone else was right in the world. In that Villanova loses to us and we're the better team on Friday night or tonight. I hope I'm wrong. But what I've seen so far this year in terms of Maryland's scoring ability, in terms of their shooting ability, in terms of the youth that we have versus the experience that Villanova has and the depth that Villanova has, and them being honestly just a top 25 team and a really talented team in the country, how I've seen we perform against lesser talented teams, it's scary to see what we'll do against a Villanova team that arguably might have more talent than us. especially more experienced than us and more guys that have played college basketball. Like I said, they have 4 guys in their lineup that are upperclassmen. I can't pick the Terps to win for those reasons. I can't. I just can't see them winning this game right now. If I had to pick, there is a world they definitely win this game. I don't expect it to be a blowout or anything like that, but I do think Villanova wins. And I also think Villanova covers a spread of about, Villanova is -6.5. I don't think I could take Terps plus 6.5. I see Villanova winning by more than 6 points. I do. I see them winning by 8, 9, probably maybe 10 points. I don't know if we're there yet. The thing that we do have working for us is we haven't played in a while. Before, we had a couple of games where they were kind of grouped together, but now we've gotten a chance to watch film, get off our feet a little bit, get our legs back, know what we did wrong, know what we have to fix, and put that into play against a Villanova team that also is going to be fighting for our lives. I want to see what we do, but I think Villanova covers the spread, and I think Villanova wins, of course, if they're covering the spread. That would mean they would win. But final score predictions, I'm going to say 75-66. Maryland has trouble scoring, and Villanova ends up winning the game because that's kind of how I see it going down. I see us having a good moment here, there, and keeping it close for all of the game, and maybe they separate with the last minute when we're playing the foul game, but I think Villanova wins by about 9 points. But prove me wrong, Maryland basketball. That's all we have for today. Like and subscribe if you like Maryland sports, Maryland basketball, Maryland football. As the football season is winding down, basketball season is here. We're going to be here every day talking about Maryland football and basketball. So make sure you like and subscribe to talk about that. And tomorrow, of course, if you're going to the Michigan game, then make sure you travel safe wherever you come from. And if you're going to maybe go up to the Villanova game, even though it's away on the road for the Terps, make sure you travel safe. And if you're going to watch the game on TV, I wish you guys all the best of luck, and I hope that the Maryland Terrapins can win the game. But thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.